going live on Periscope, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube all at the same time is my attempt. Okay, so I want to share this information to as many people as I possibly can. So if you are joining me live, please do give me a hello in the comments. I would love to hear from you. I would love to see that you are here. I can see some waving. I can see a lot of people joining on different platforms. So thank you so much for tuning in today. This is, can you believe it, the first time I've been live on some of these platforms. I've not been live on Instagram before. Instagram, hello, thank you for joining me. And I've not been live on TikTok before either. So this is very exciting, as well as everyone who is watching on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on Periscope/Twitter. Thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. So please do let me know if you are on. Please do let me know that you are live. I will be toggling through all any questions that you have. You can please do ask me in the comments, and I will be coming back and dealing with those. Today, I want to speak about coronavirus for UK business owners. So if you are a UK business owner, this is going to be applicable to you. I'm going to be going through some of the updates that we've had over the last week or so, what those might mean for you. If you have any questions at all about your specifics, please do let me know in the comments. I will try and look back and answer those during the live. If I'm not able to do that during this session for any reason at all, I will come back and record answers to any questions that you might have. So please do give me a hello. I can see a number of you tuning in on different platforms. Please do give me a hello. We've got a few people coming in on TikTok. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for saying hello to me. And I can see we've got a few on Facebook as well. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. So I want to speak about coronavirus, UK businesses, and what's been happening over the last couple of weeks. Now, first off, I want to go through something that Jim Harra said. Jim Harra is the chief executive of HMRC, and this is in relation to furloughing staff or furloughing yourself if you are the director of a small business. Jim Harra yesterday came out in a number of interviews. You can find it in the Times, in the Financial Times. There's a number of papers running this story, but he came out and he said that anyone who puts their staff into furlough and then makes them work, so going against the rules of furlough, for those of you that are not clear, the rules are that you can furlough your staff if you have if you're a UK business and you have employees, you can furlough your staff and you can claim 80% of their wages from the government under the job retention scheme up to a maximum of $2,500 a month. And what happens then is the furloughed staff are not allowed to continue working. If you are claiming furlough, if you are claiming that benefit from the government, and I will go on to speak about how you do that and the updates on that as well shortly. But if you are claiming that, then you are unable to require your staff to work. If you do mandate that they still have to continue working, that is breaking the rules of furlough. That is essentially benefits fraud. And Jim Harra, the chief executive of HMRC, has come out and said that people who do that will face criminal prosecution as well as clawback of benefits. It's really important to understand that that is basically benefit fraud, and that's what they're saying. They're saying that if you want to do that, if you do that, put staff on furlough and then mandate that they have to work during this time, that is breaking the rules of the benefit, and therefore you are subject to benefits fraud. Now, this leaves us in the position where you say, okay, but what about if I'm a director of my own company and I want to furlough myself? What am I actually allowed to do during this time to not commit benefit fraud, to not break the rules, and to stick within what is allowed? And this is still an incredibly grey area at the moment, unfortunately. I got some people saying, what are we talking about? We are talking about the UK businesses and coronavirus support, basically, and some updates on what that is. So thank you for asking that question. On TikTok, Never Stop Smiling. Unfortunately, Ryan, I am not your future wife. I am already married. I am sorry about that. Back to this situation. So what happens is that if you are a UK business and you are furloughing your staff, that's kind of clear cut. They're not allowed to work, full stop. The problem with UK directors is people saying, well, if I furlough myself, what am I allowed to do and what am I not allowed to do? Now, we've been told that you are allowed to continue your legal statutory duties that are required as a result of being a director. So you are allowed to continue your legal statutory duties. However, many directors are saying, okay, but what about all the other stuff that it takes to run a business? Am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to communicate with my clients? Am I allowed to communicate with prospects? Am I allowed to post on social media? Am I allowed to do any of that? Now, there's a number of interpretations, and it appears that even within government, there are a number of interpretations. I've heard people be told that from one government department, they have said, yes, you're allowed to do some kind of basic marketing and communications, and other people have said, no, you're not. So even within government, there is a lot of uncertainty about actually what's allowed to be done. Now, what they are saying is that you can't do anything that is basically, they've given examples of revenue generating work or service delivery, but those were just examples. They weren't only excluded, it wasn't only these things. It was including service delivery, including revenue generation activity. So it's quite difficult to get a really clear-cut answer on exactly what can you do. Now, my belief is that if you are a director of a limited company, you can't do anything other than your legal statutory duties, because otherwise that would put you in a misalignment with those that are employees, and that is the rule that we fall under. That is the rule that as limited company directors, we are actually coming under. So I hope that makes sense. So I believe that we can't actually do anything. There may be some more clarity on this in the future. Paul is saying that he's heard a rumor that if you furlough yourself as a limited company director, you can still carry on work as a sole trader. Yes, I have listened to, Paul is also saying apparently Martin Lewis mentioned this. Is it correct? I have watched that Martin Lewis video. And he does say in some instances you might be able to do that. But what he is actually referring to is he's not referring to somebody who runs a business and has all their clients through that business. What he's referring to is if you are basically a contractor for another firm. So he's basically saying, for example, I used to work at Goldman Sachs, and when I worked there was a number of people there that were contractors. So they were working for Goldman Sachs full time, but through their own limited company. So what they were doing, they were contracted through their own limited company for them to work full time within Goldman Sachs. It was basically this little loop that they were in. So what specifically, that is what Martin Lewis was referring to in that video that he made. He was referring to that situation, a situation where you have all your clients operating through one company. Then if you want to try and transfer that to a sole trader, you come under problems with VAT legislation, for example. When you start doing things like that, there's artificial separation rules that are in place, which would preclude you from doing that type of thing, I believe. What about school principals? Are they allowed to contact staff and teachers? That's San asking on Periscope. San, I really feel like the answer at the moment is no. I don't think you can do any communication, because I think that comes under the definition of work. That's the problem though, San, is that it's really not that clear cut exactly what is defined as work. I would have said that would be work, and therefore, no, you couldn't do that. No problem, Paul. You're more than welcome. But other people are arguing otherwise. So it's very difficult to know exactly what we would class under that. Now, let me see if I've got any more questions on this coming through any of the other channels. So I am seeing questions about the loan scheme. I'm going to be covering the loan scheme. See questions about the loan scheme on TikTok. So I will come back to that, because I am going to be answering some questions about the loan scheme. Let's just check Instagram as well. I'm doing most of this multi-stream through Restream, but some of them I'm doing on phones as well. So I've got lots of places to look for questions. So that is kind of where we are at the moment. They're saying that if you mandate your staff to continue to work, you're subject to criminal prosecution. There's still a really grey area about directors themselves and what that actually means and the interpretation of that legislation. I'm just going to take a cup of tea as well. So, with limited company directors, dividends have been excluded from being allowed to be claimed. There is actually a really good reason in law for that, which a lot of people are not sure of. So I just want to explain that as well, why dividends have been excluded from this calculation of what limited company directors can claim for support. So limited company directors typically, I say we because I include myself in this, have paid ourselves a very small base salary and then the remainder of the money that we want to take out of the business as a dividend. Now, the thing is that a dividend is not paid out to you because you're a director of the company. The dividend is paid out because you are a shareholder in the business. And this is where the real distinction lies, because if the government were to start paying out shareholders for drops in their dividend that they received, they would have to do that to every shareholder for any entity throughout the entire UK. There are people who have investments and their dividends will have dropped by the fact that the companies they have investments in, their profits have lowered, therefore their dividends would be less. So you could get a retired couple who live off dividend income from their investments, and the government won't be supporting them in that dividend income drop. You would get things like pension funds, you get things like institutional investors, all of them will have had massive or potentially have massive dividend reductions, and the government is not going to support that dividend because a dividend is paid because you're a shareholder and because you are due an appropriation of profits from a business. And that's the problem with where we're now sitting with this situation, that if a director basically is also paying themselves as a shareholder, and it's the shareholder bit they're not paying out on. It's not that they're not supporting UK directors specifically, although they are by default. What they're not doing is they're not supplementing dividend income. Full stop. And therefore that means the knock-on effect is that UK directors are not feeling supported, and very much I understand that completely. And also then therefore feeling there's a real mismatch between the rules for self-employed people and the rules for limited company directors, which I completely get as well. But that is the reason. So the only things that basically are available for a UK limited director are furlough, if you stop work, or universal credit. And they're really the only support mechanisms that are out there at the moment for limited company directors. Now, I completely get that this feels incredibly unfair, and I completely understand that. I completely understand that the question is, well, surely the government want me to continue running my business because this is what helps keep the economy alive and it's what will help us in recovery afterwards. Completely get all of that. But that is where we are at the moment with the current legislation that we have. Sarah is asking on Facebook, are there any grants for limited company if you don't have a premises? No, Sarah, there are no grants available if you have no premises. Then there are no grants available for UK companies. The grants are based, UK limited companies, the grants are based on having premises. So if you don't have premises, then no, there are not. The only options are furloughing your staff or potentially yourself, but we've spoken about some of the issues with that. The loan scheme, the CBILS loan, which I will come on to speaking about because that has its own problems as well. And that's pretty much it, unfortunately, Sarah. Of course, statutory sick pay if you get ill. That's another one. Statutory sick pay if you get ill. I know it is a bum. You're absolutely right. It is. It really is. So I just want to, again, check on some of the, if there's any questions on any of the other platforms that I can see. Do we have nothing else on TikTok coming through? Do we have anything else being asked on Instagram? If you do have any questions, please do ask me in the comments on whatever platform you are watching on. I can see that we have a few people watching on each platform, which is really wonderful. I'm very excited that this tech setup that I have seems to be working. Incidentally, by the way, if you don't know who I am, I have not even introduced myself. My name is Annette Ferguson. I'm CEO of Annette & Co, a UK-based accounting firm. I'm a chartered accountant and a certified Profit First professional. It is my mission at the moment to try and support you as much as I possibly can, both during this time and of course beyond, but specifically just now focusing on how to get businesses through this point in time with coronavirus, with everything that's happening in our economies, and trying to support you through that, to give you the real up-to-date information that exists, to not use fluffy interpretations around it, but to kind of state what the actual information is. And that is my my absolute aim at this time as well. So what I want to then go on to speak about is something that someone on TikTok mentioned, the loan scheme for small businesses. Now, the loan scheme for small businesses, when it was announced, many people thought, hallelujah, this will be my saving grace. It doesn't seem to be working out that way so much. So when it first came in, we had the problem that many people were being asked to give directors' guarantees for the loans they were requesting. Now that I have heard has been dropped. My clients are telling me they have not been asked to provide directors' guarantees or self-employed persons' guarantees on those loans. They should not be requested now for loans under £250,000. You should not have to give a director's guarantee for that, was the government's suggestion back to the banks when they realized that the banks were wanting to put director's guarantees in place. So you shouldn't have to have a director's guarantee in place. I have heard anecdotally that around 2,500 loans have been agreed throughout the whole of the UK. That is a tiny, tiny, tiny amount given the number of businesses that we have in the UK. I personally have not found any individual who has had a payout under this loan scheme, either through asking on my social media channels, through my clients. And I also have a Facebook group for other accountants, and I have asked in there too, and none of them have had any of their clients receive a payout under the loan guarantee, the loan scheme. So if you have had one, I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what that looks like, what the interest rates you've been offered look like, and what the terms look like. Not if you've had a kind of positive noise from your bank manager. There's been a few of those around. If you've had, actually, you have a piece of signed paper and you have a physical payout in your bank account from this scheme, I would love to hear from you. Please, please do let me know if that is you. I really want to hear from you if that is you. What I have also heard from a client of mine is that their bank, who I believe is Lloyd's, told them what their criteria for lending was. Now, the one thing I don't know is whether this is across all banks, this is specifically Lloyd's, or this was specifically for them. Okay, I don't know whether this was specifically for their business. They said you don't meet this criteria, which we put in place for your business or your sector, or whether it applies to all. But I wanted to share this with you because what they said their lending would be the lower of 25% of the business's turnover or 2 times your salary bill. The lower of 2 times your salary bill or 25% of turnover. And for many, many, many businesses, if that is the case across the board, that is not even going to be close, particularly if you're in a business when you have a lot of freelancers and not so many staff on salary. You're not going to meet that. And the minimum lending, they were saying as well, was £25,000. So if those numbers didn't get to £25,000, you're excluded as well. So it feels like there's a lot of hoops to jump through. I've also heard from a number of people that the banks are trying to push them into other products. So not this product. When they go and want this product, they try and push them into other products too. So that has been a really big problem as well. It still feels like this loan scheme needs some input again from government to go back and say, look, people are still not actually getting this. This is still not helping the people it needs to, and it's still not getting to where it needs to go. So there's still a really big problem with that. Now, let me check my comments. Okay, we've got some funny stuff happening over there on Periscope. Some slightly crazy questions. Let's just look for the relevant ones and not the slightly crazy ones on some of the platforms. Sounds like the hoops are on fire. Yes, Sarah, it does. It does sound like the hoops are on fire a little bit. The hoops are not great hoops to be jumping through, unfortunately. Absolutely, Jeanette. I've already sent out a couple of updates to clients. So if you've not got those, I'll resend those across to you. Absolutely. I am absolutely putting stuff out to clients at the moment. So you should have something in your inbox from me as well on that. Okay, good. And the other thing I want to speak about is the job retention scheme and when that opens. So the job retention scheme we already touched on before, but I want to speak about the recent communication about when that is actually going to be open to submit your claims for your employees, wages for employees you put under furlough. So the claims are due to open. The portal is due to be opened on the 20th of April. They are saying that they're going to do a few test cases before then and run that through. So you may be lucky and be a test case and be able to run through a few days earlier to that. But it's going to open on the 20th of April. They've also stated that they hope the technology doesn't fall over. There may be an online wait system to submit. They have also said that agents will be able to claim on their client's behalf. So if you have your accountant currently running your payroll, they will be able to submit on your behalf. You don't need to do that. The information, if you are going to do it yourself, that you need is the national insurance number of the person you're putting into furlough, their salary, and the applicable employer's national insurance and pension contributions from the employer as well, because they are all what is reclaimable. So you have to have all that information to be able to put it in order to be able to make the claim. You will have to have a login, a government gateway login. So you'll have to already have a PAYE login to be able to do this, we assume. Of course, if your agent usually does your payroll, then that will all be taken care of with their agent login anyway. But that's an important thing to know as well. What I also want to say is during this time, it's a really good time to focus on what you can do. It might feel like there's a lot of things you can't do at the moment, and you may be in an industry where you just can't sell. It's just not possible. You cannot deliver what you do at the moment. I completely understand that. And if you are that person, there are other things that you can be thinking about doing if you want to keep things going. So, there's things like your visibility, building your community, building your network, building your email list, building your relationships. All that kind of stuff can be worked on at the moment. You don't need to be directly selling to work on all that stuff. Making sure that you're getting your kind of brand name out there and people understand what you do and doing that type of work rather than potentially the direct selling, which you either may not be able to do just now, or you just may not feel that it's the right time for you to do that. So there are other options there as well for things that you can be doing just now to ensure that not only does your business see this through, but you can actually shore up what your business stands for, what its values are, all those kinds of things so that you can come out the other end and feel strong as well. So I hope that makes sense to you. Let's see if we've got any other questions coming through. John, thank you. Thank you for the praise. I really appreciate that. John. Let's have a look and see if we've got anybody else with questions before I hop off. Ollie, you are more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Ollie. I am for those thanks there. I appreciate that very much. Let's see. I think that is all our questions we have on our different platforms. So I'm quite excited that this streaming everywhere seems to have worked okay. It seems to have gone down, and I've managed to see everyone's questions and things as well, and points too, which has been really helpful. If you have any other questions that I have not covered, you want to ask me, then you can, of course, do that in whichever platform you are watching on. Send me a direct message, or whatever, depending on where you are. We're streaming across all platforms here, so depending where you are. Angus, you are more than welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. So I really appreciate everyone who has tuned in today. Please do give me some likes, give me some follows, give me some love, whichever platform you are on. I would be massively appreciative if you would like to do that. If you have stumbled across this and you are not already a follower or a liker or a friend or whatever it might be, depending on the platform, whatever term is used, then please do connect, follow, whatever it is, as well. Please do share out this video as well on your channels so that other people can benefit too. I would be massively appreciative if you want to share or tag people in the comments so that they can watch as well, so that they can take advantage of this information. I will be live again next Thursday at 11 as well, giving you some more updates. I may go live before then too. I will, reserve the right to do that. But I will definitely be live again next Thursday at 11, and I will attempt to again stream on multiple platforms like I am doing just now. So I massively appreciate you for joining me. I know your time is incredibly precious, and I appreciate you spending some of it here with me today. I am going to, you're welcome, Deirdre, you're welcome. I'm going to start logging off from the various channels, but like I say, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all again really soon. Take care, everyone.